Join me as we talk all things true crime.
Made contact and shattered.
The missing 4-year-old. The parents have called in and that the mother has went through a wall, came home, now they can't find her.
Chad, where are Lori's kids? They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say?
4 were stabbed multiple times and were likely asleep during the attack. Some had defensive wounds.
Most of them had just like one that was the lethal stab wound.
Oh, what a tangled web we weave. Once I told a lie, and I told my family, I had to keep lying.
Experiment is a demon.
We haven't cleared anybody.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. This is another ATS News live stream. Please hit that like button. We need to spread awareness for this case. We haven't touched on it in about 3 weeks on this channel. And unfortunately, there has been no developments from law enforcement or at all in this case. So Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers is 110 pounds, 15 years old, 5 foot 5 inches. Last seen February 26, 2024 in Sumner County, Tennessee, wearing a black shirt, black sweatpants, and his glasses. If you have any information, please call FBI office or TBI. TBI's number is streaming on the bottom of the screen, and the FBI number is 865-544-0751. So this is a national Amber Alert. The family has sort of been quiet on mainstream media, but Sebastian's father, his biological father, has been doing interviews. We touched on his last interview, I believe, on our last stream on this case. And guys, just let me know if you can hear me before I continue on. And hello, Little Red, Pointer Lover, Tony, Being Bio Girl, Debbie Fox, Melly's here, Ellie's here. Good to see you. Johnny, of course, is here. Thanks so much. And thank you so much for the sound check. And yeah, so guys, we EE Caroline, Unravel, Dustin, Steph. Sorry if I missed you guys. So he was on CourtTV, and he is in the biological father, Seth. Let me change up my screen. I noticed that it wasn't on the CourtTV's YouTube channel. Maybe I missed it, but I found it here on Facebook. So we'll get into it. It's 43 minutes long. The father is not in the entire thing. There's, of course, commentary and expert opinions and all that. So I have not watched this yet. So this is going to be a live reaction with you guys. I'm curious, those in chat who has seen this. Let me know if you guys have watched this already. Hello, Zoe. Good to see you. Pointer Lover, with the stream, the banner of the membership for 25 months. Thank you so much for everything that you do for me and for this channel. You're greatly appreciated. I hope you know that. All right, guys. So, okay, Being Bio Girl hasn't seen it. Little Red has. Tony has not. Yes, thank you so much, Debbie Fox. Debbie, have you seen this, the latest from Seth? All right, let's get into it.
I'm Vinny Politan, the subject of my investigation.
Yeah, it wasn't on YouTube, and it's so weird. I went to share this link in my Facebook groups, and it says it goes against Facebook's community guidelines. And so Roxanne, my moderator, as you guys know, was like, let me try and share it. And she said the same thing, like it wouldn't allow her to share this link. So I was like, is that, for all my true crime links? So I I shared like a Chris Watts one that we did last night in my Chris Watts group, and it shared it just fine. So I'm like very confused. I don't know, maybe it's a glitch. Okay, good. We'll be watching it together. Jay is here. Good to see you. Oh yeah, no problem. Just relax. And then if you gotta dip out, no worries. I'm just happy you're here.
A 15-year-old boy from Tennessee. His name is Sebastian Rogers. He's a child with autism, and he is missing. Now, there are a lot of questions that need to be answered in this case. Here's more of Sebastian's story.
Inside this beautiful neighborhood in Hendersonville, Tennessee, there is an unsolved mystery. It was a Sunday night going into a Monday morning, and 15-year-old Sebastian Rogers was supposed to be inside his home sleeping. His mother, Katie Proudfoot, says he went to bed at 9, but was making some noise around 10, including a thud sound. Katie told him to go to sleep. She went to bed at midnight. Then at 6 a.m., Katie woke up. She went to his room to get him ready for school, but Sebastian was gone. She searched the house, and he was nowhere to be found. Sebastian's stepdad, Chris Proudfoot, was not home, and Sebastian's father, Seth Rogers, was at work about 45 minutes away. Police.
Of course, I do have to pause it here and there for commentary. Yes, Little Red, I'm having a little boy in October, end of October. People kind of commented on this in the Sebastian Rogers Facebook groups, and they were saying like, oh, Seth seemed more suspicious to me about or after this segment on CourtTV. So I don't know what they're talking about. A lot of people are gunning for Seth. I don't get that. I mean, all of them are suspects in my book, you know, until they get the clear from law enforcement officially. You know, we can't rule anybody out just yet, but I just get worse vibes from the people who saw him last. So the mother, and even though he claims he wasn't there, the stepfather kind of gives me weird vibes. But people have also pointed out that Seth claims he was at work, but that's never been proven. So I'm just like, my head's all over the place because I'm like, wait, what? Like, I thought it was like pretty clear and set in stone that he was at work and that was confirmed. But now I'm just like, what's going on? Yeah, Pointer Lover, I tend to feel the same. Like, I don't get the vibe that like Seth had anything to do with this. But then I also realized, like, well, we don't really have like a proven alibi for anyone yet. So it's just a weird case. Yeah, they're all suspicious. Hi, Lisa. Good to see you. Yeah, October, I think it's going to be cool. Like with Halloween always around his birthday. It'll be fun.
Trying to figure out what happened. That was February 26, 2024. And as the days, weeks, and months have passed, still no sign of Sebastian, no sign of foul play, and no answers about what happened. Did someone harm Sebastian, or did he just walk away? We're searching for answers as we investigate the mysterious disappearance of Sebastian Rogers.
From the beginning, this case has not made a lot of sense because of the lack of evidence, the lack of leads. I want you to take a look, though, at the original Amber Alert in this case, because I think it's significant. The Amber Alert went out, issued on behalf of the Sumner County Sheriff's Office for Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. Sebastian is a 15-year-old white male, 5'5" tall, 120 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. Sebastian was last seen on February 26th, 2024, in the area of Stafford Court in Hendersonville, Tennessee. February 26th. That's the last time he has been seen. So what's going on right now? You know, we profile missing children all the time, every night. So my question right now is anyone still searching for Sebastian? Let me bring in my special guest, someone I know is still searching. Sebastian's father, Seth Rogers, is with us, and also joining us, the Rogers family spokesperson, Tony Mathis. Thank you both for being here. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. And
why does the family need a spokesperson? Can anyone explain that to me? Sorry if that's an ignorant question. He's not a lawyer. I'm just confused there.
Opportunity to speak about Sebastian. Seth, let me begin with you. Is anyone still searching for your missing son?
I am. I have a private investigator that's still working on it. She conducts her searches in private. She has her own volunteer base. We're not going to stop until we find it.
Let me ask you this, Seth. Outside of what you are doing, is this search still active? Let's talk about law enforcement.
From my understanding, law enforcement is still searching. They're doing it privately as well. They're checking in on tips when they come in.
Now, in the last interview that we had of Seth that we went over a couple weeks ago, he said that it's no longer a search, it's a recovery search or whatever. Like they're doing it as like a recovery operation. Hi, Keenly, good to see you. So I don't know. Law enforcement hasn't come out officially and said that themselves. It's just been Seth who has said it. I personally think at this point that law enforcement needs to do like a press conference, another one.
If we get tips, we pass them on to them. Same time we get them.
And how is that part going with tips? Are people still providing information when they come across things? And what are your thoughts about?
We still get information. I mean, we still get emails every day. We have a tip site that is up. My PI put that up. It's a valid tip site for anybody who wants to email or call, wants to be anonymous or whatnot.
Tony, I wanted to bring you in the conversation. This is a difficult situation. And I understand the onslaught of public attention that this has gotten. And sometimes that's a big positive in keeping Sebastian's face in the public and getting people to know who he is and think about him. And if they see something, hopefully say something. But obviously there can be downsides as well. How is all of this publicity, from your perspective, impacting the search for Sebastian?
Well, we don't really believe that any of the media attention, social media attention, any of that is really going to impact what law enforcement's doing one way or another. It does impact the father, that I represent, Seth. We thank all the creators out there that continue to keep Sebastian's name out and do it in a positive way. Our message to most of the media attention, more social media than mainstream, is that, we ask that you cover the case in a positive way. If you choose not to do that and back away, that's okay too. But any positive support that we can get for Seth while he's looking for his son is a big deal for us.
And Seth, I know that during the course of all of this, there have been some potential leads that became very public, including a photograph of someone who seemed to resemble Sebastian at a rest stop in, I believe, North Carolina. How are you holding up through all of this? And where's your level of optimism right now?
I have faith. I have hope. Sebastian's alive. We just gotta find him. There is nothing else. Just finding Sebastian.
Tony, I wanted to get you in on this as well, in terms of as a family spokesperson, do you feel that there is still the same level of, I guess, commitment from everyone, the community, law enforcement, media, to make sure that anything and everything is done to find this missing child?
Well, Vinny, I think that it's our job to keep his name out there in the community. All of our job on Seth's team, and of course I represent just Seth. It's all of our jobs on his team to keep the community engaged. We continue to have events, have vigils, have gatherings, keep his name out there. The media, mainstream media, such as yourself and many others, have been very good and very helpful. It's very easy to get interviews if Seth feels up to doing an interview. I think the X factor for us is law enforcement. I think that the communication, it's been a bit lacking, at least as far as Seth and I are concerned. We don't really know what it is they're doing. We have faith. We heavily back the blue. Of course, Seth is in law enforcement. I live in Oklahoma. We strongly back the blue in my community. But, the question that I always ask that we still haven't got an answer to is, just simply tell Seth, are you any closer today to figuring out what happened to Sebastian than you were on February 26th?
I just want to pause it here and kind of look at this footage of them at the dump. Very interesting. That's always been an aspect of the case that people have kind of scratched their heads about, because they continue to say no signs of foul play, but everything is on the table and foul play isn't ruled out. And everyone wants to know, okay, well, so why were they searching the trash yard, the dump, whatever you want to call it? Something, must have led them maybe in that direction, do you guys think? Other people have said, no, they're just kind of crossing their T's and dotting their I's and, checking just in case as part of, a search effort. But, usually people only check that area when they have a reason to believe that they've been disposed of or that they were dead. There has been a large part of me in this case that felt like law enforcement focused too much on this being a runaway situation. But then we see images like this at the landfill, and it kind of makes me think like maybe they did have some reason to think the worst and that he was there. Pointer Lever says they don't search landfills just in case. Right, because the other thing too is like you're exposing law enforcement. And we've seen this in Quentin Simon's case. They had like a whole special team that kind of was used to doing this aspect. I think it might have been the FBI had like a whole crew look for Quentin there. And, it's a very hazardous environment. It can be very toxic and all that, the fumes, look what you're digging through. So it's just it's expensive and it's a hazard. Yes. They're not just going to put their law enforcement, in these situations for no reason. If it is a death, there is not a huge hurry to sort it out. But with a runaway or kidnapping, you have a live person to find, might be time dependent. They wouldn't go there unless they felt they had to. Crazy. God, I can't imagine going through a dump, especially for remains. I can't even bear to go through the household trash if I have to and looking for remains. It's horrible. I know. So yeah, it does seem very interesting and alarming that this did kind of take place for Sebastian. But again, they could easily tell the public, no signs of foul play, but foul play is not ruled out when they have something in mind behind the scenes that they're keeping close to their chest. And if it's true, like Seth said, that this is a recovery process, then that sort of makes this footage even more, I don't know, kind of ties it all together in a way. And hello, Kimberly, Natasha, everyone else who's joined. Thanks so much for being here. To raise awareness of the case, make sure you hit that like button. It does get the story out into the algorithm. If they are looking in the dump, I mean, they are pretty strongly suspicious something bad has happened. And remember the flashlights and the rumors that it was the trash truck. And then Chris, of course, says, no, it wasn't flashlights, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's just the stories have changed from the mother's standpoint. We've kind of digged through that as well. You know, and stories never really change when you're telling the truth. A lot of people have said her story hasn't changed, it's remained consistent, but they haven't listened to the interview on Duchess, and they haven't listened to her kind of change it up when she's on Nancy Grace. You know, the first few interviews, the thud around 10 o'clock was never mentioned. Even when asked, so nothing stood out to you as unusual that night. She had told Duchess no. And then all of a sudden, by the time she gets all the way to Nancy Grace, after, you know, talking with Chronicles of Olivia and other channels, all of a sudden this thud has kind of stuck out as something very, you know, a key element to the story of the night. Being Bio Girl says, I always believe that Katie holds the key. I feel Katie and Chris know a lot more than what has been said. Yeah. Have there ever been any cases where they are looking for one body but found a different one? That actually happened, I believe, in, was it Dylan's case? Or was it Aiden's? One of the missing boys in Utah, out there, they were finding other bodies, like out in the desert area. For me, I think it would be, I would be live every day searching and talking about my child. And yet, hey, Foxy Lady, and yet we hear about the newest drama in the case regarding the family, the mother specifically, who is suing Blowhorn Betty and taking her to court because, you know, she's feeling harassed, etc. Because Blowhorn Betty like thinks that, you know, Katie's involved. Unfortunately, the approach that Blowhorn Betty goes about it looks not right. And I can see why they would be like, oh, this is harassment. But at the same time, I'm alarmed that they're spending so much time, you know, going after a YouTuber and not the same type of energy into finding Sebastian anymore. Exactly. She has the energy to sue, or I don't know if it's suing or taking her to court. I don't know. I haven't really looked that into it. But yeah, there's some court drama between Katie Proudfoot and BHB. And she's feeling harassed and all that because Blowhorn Betty has like live streams talking about their house and driving past it. Just like handling it all wrong, pretty much. Like, but yes, so now there's a whole court battle going on. And like you said, the energy to deal with all that, but there's no energy in finding Sebastian. Protective order, Ginger Girl says. Thank you. Hey, Cindy, good to see you. And a restraining order. Got it. So yeah, that's the latest. I'd be out looking for my son and not on YouTube. Yeah, I mean, harass me all you want. I'm just going to be busy, doing what I got to do to find him, get his name out there. You know what I mean? It almost reminded me of Letitia Stout. Remember when she was all annoyed of the social media rumors kind of going after her? And she was like, in her media interview, like, everyone's going to owe me an apology when they find Gannon and he's okay. And that never happened. In fact, now she's sitting in prison because of the murder for Gannon. So it's just very much, why are you focused and so upset about what people are saying? I understand that can be frustrating and aggravating in life, but there's other things that you could put your energy towards personally. But she doesn't care about finding Sebastian. Very weird.
Quite frankly, we feel like that's a very fair and logical question. We have not got an answer to that.
That it has to be absolutely excruciating. By the way, folks, as you watch, you'll see on the bottom of your screen numbers and places you can contact if you have any information. Seth, how are you holding up? I'm always concerned about you going through this. I've spoken with other parents through the years. I got a strong sense from them what it can be like. How are you holding up?
It's more like 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time. It doesn't really seem like it's been 5 months. It's just you lose track of time. I mean, all you're doing is thinking about the next place to go look, what the next thing needs to be done, and just trying to stay positive, trying to stay focused on finding my son and what's the next step to do.
What's been the biggest frustration for you so far in the search?
Not getting much in terms of information-wise. The last thing that I was really informed of by the sheriff's office is they don't have anything stating that he left the house. And that's pretty much, that's it. But obviously he's not there, or else we wouldn't be looking for him. There's no sightings. There's nothing. Just one move. Things just don't make sense. I mean, we're talking about, first of all, we're talking about a male child that left his house with nothing. A teenager that left the house with nothing. No phone, no switch, possibly no shoes, no backpack. I mean, completely unprepared. That's
no money.
It's not how he leaves the house to go somewhere with me. I don't expect him to leave anywhere without his phone and way of communication in case something happens. It's just too much doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. Seth Rogers, Tony Mathis, stand by, stay with us. When we come back, we have another question to ask tonight. Was Sebastian's mom the last person to see him?
We are just trying to do whatever we can to advance the investigation. It has not gone to a place where anybody has forgotten about him or is not pursuing this. The parents have been cooperative throughout at the beginning of the investigation. They have pretty much done whatever law enforcement has asked of them.
And we've talked about that word cooperation before. And just because you're cooperative with law enforcement doesn't mean that, oh, well, they must be innocent. They must be cleared. We don't need to look at them at all as suspicious, because like we've seen in other cases, the perpetrators, they will act cooperative because they don't want that red flag on them. Chris Watts let them search his house without the warrants. He let them, do whatever they needed to, and come to find out he was the main reason that they were all dead. So it's just, people don't just vanish. Someone knows something. And that's the other thing too, is, with him leaving his shoes at home and his phone at home, amongst other things that they're, their Nintendo Switch, all that stuff, like that stuff is very precious to Sebastian. It looks a lot like other cases where, their car keys were left at home, their purse was left at home. And then those cases turned out to have not so positive of an ending either. No one is cleared until Sebastian or his remains are recovered and the case is closed. Right. So as much as people want to, stand by Chris and Katie and stand by Seth, you're more than welcome to have your opinions, but let's face it. No one has been cleared. Nobody. So I would hate to be one of those people that went to bat for some of these people in this case, and then it comes out that they were actually involved. And it's like, wait, but you were just, you proclaimed their innocence. You said, how dare people look at them with a side eye? And then it comes out that they were involved. I'd hate to be the people who, have to put their foot in their mouth. But at the same time, I can understand why people have their strong feelings and stuff like that about people involved. Hey, Roxanne, how did the game go?
Hi, talking about the case of missing 15-year-old Sebastian Rogers. So parents are cooperating. Now, his situation, his parents aren't together anymore. So his mom, he has a stepfather, and he has a dad, and they were all in the same area when all of this was happening, the same general area. But I want to play you something, which was an interview that was done with Sebastian's mother, Katie Proudfoot. Her and her husband sat down with the YouTube channel Chronicles of Olivia, and she explained the last time that she saw Sebastian.
He said, all right, good night, Mama. Good night, puppies. Love you. And went to bed. He was doing something in his room because about an hour later I heard some noise, and I was like, I don't care what you're doing in there, but go to sleep. And about midnight, I got up and I went to bed. And 6 o'clock, I went to wake him up for school Monday morning. And that's when he went in here.
So Sebastian went to bed. They're in the same house, different parts of the house. She heard a thud noise, but didn't go to see him. But what was going on with that alleged thud noise, and who was with him? Was there anyone with him at that moment? Or, bringing me to my next question, was Sebastian's mother the last person to see him? Was she the last one? Was there someone else that came to the house that night? Or is there some other story?
And let me ask you guys that same question. Do you believe that somebody snuck into the house and took Sebastian? Do you guys believe that he walked out of the house and left on his own accord? I personally don't think either of those scenarios took place. I don't think that somebody came in, and I don't think he left on his own. That's just me. They did not find a scent of him. So I just don't think that he even ran off. I considered it, especially if he had gotten in an argument with his mother in the car after leaving dinner, and they're at a stoplight and he decides, you know what, I'm going to book it and I'm just going to walk out of the car. But then, you know, it's like, well, I feel he would have been found by now. Somebody would have at least had a sighting of him storming down the road or something like that. Now, again, anything is possible. I think that if law enforcement thought that there was an intruder that took him, they wouldn't be saying no signs of foul play, because that would also be considered foul play.
With us, Seth Rogers, Sebastian's father, and Tony Mathis, the family spokesperson. Seth, from your perspective, I know you've listened to every potential piece of information that's been available in this case, that's been made available. To me, that thud noise, I've always thought about that, what that could have been if it happened, right? What are your thoughts about Sebastian's mom? Do you believe she's the last person to see Sebastian before he disappeared?
And did you notice that Vinny just said that thud noise, if it happened? So he's even saying if it happened. If it was dark out, maybe no one's seen anything. Yeah, I mean, from what we know, that nobody did see anything. But the tracking dogs never found any scent of him. If that's still accurate. I know that the dog information has bounced around as well. They said something about it went to a retention pond. Melly says, I don't even believe he went home after Texas Roadhouse. A lot of people think that as well. Texas Ranger said, I've thought it may have been an online predator, but who knows? Yeah, a lot of people were kind of thinking that too, because of how easy it is, unfortunately, for kids to kind of fall into that trap. But then other people were like, well, by now, you know, with phone extractions and they have his Nintendo Switch and all that, they would have had some trail of him communicating with somebody. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but I feel like that's a valid point. Like, yeah, you would think that, you know, everything has a digital footprint. But I don't know. Oh, yes, the thud, in quotes. I still just don't know what to believe, but I'm leaning towards he was tricked by older boys to leave with them. There's so many different scenarios, right? And we're all just like, we're all guessing. I think, you know, besides the fact that this, of course, is just a tragedy of, you know, a young child, 15, a boy, you know, being missing, it's very mysterious. So a lot of people are just like glued in because it just doesn't make much sense. Online communication could be considered foul play, right? If they felt like that was the avenue, they would probably say something like that.
I'd say yes. I mean, he was in her house. She's the one that put him to bed. She'd be the last person to have seen him.
What do you think about that thud noise that she described, the rustling that was going on? I thought about it. I've looked at the house. His room is on the first floor, right? So his window is accessible from the outside.
It would be, I believe, but I know law enforcement went around the house and stated that none of the windows or screens had been tampered with. So as for the thud, I mean, I don't know what she would classify as a thud. If I heard something in his room I know I'd go check on him just because I want to make sure he's okay. I mean, he's got medical condition that would definitely mean I need to go check on him just to make sure he's okay.
And have you spoken with his mom about that night at all? Have you had any sort of conversation, either just the two of you or with other people there?
Have not had a conversation with her just alone, and probably won't.
Why is that?
Because Chris doesn't allow anyone to have private conversations with Katie, is my guess.
Because every time I want to speak to her, I'm going to have to speak to Chris. Chris wasn't there. I don't know why he needs to be involved in a conversation about what happened that night. And if he was on a phone call, then maybe he can tell us what the thud was.
How about the rest of the day leading up to the point that Sebastian got home? Who was the last person other than his mom to see him? And have you spoken with that person?
No, I guess the last person to see him besides mom would be, the waitress at at Texas Roadhouse.
And Tony, as we try to track and figure out who interacted with Sebastian, where he could have gone, how this could have happened. From your perspective, what are the lingering questions that you see in this case as well?
Well, if you're talking about that situation specifically, Vinny, I mean, clearly she was the last person that was seen with him. There has been no evidence that he ever left the house on his own. So in my mind, what would be the opposite of him leaving the house on his own? It would be leaving the house with somebody. Well, the only somebody, admittingly, by Katie that was in that house was her. So clearly we have some questions there. But my bigger question as Seth's spokesperson, and where I would ask CourtTV to give us some assistance is, we have video evidence that shows that Seth was at work. We've had all of his electronic devices that have been seized and dumped. We'd like to know why Seth still hasn't been cleared, or what they might need from Seth and or myself to.
What I don't get is in all these interviews with Tony, he says the same thing. We'd like to know, what if law enforcement is any closer to finding Sebastian. We'd like to know why Seth hasn't been cleared. It's like, okay, like we need to find Sebastian. That's the main thing. Like, I don't know. He just kind of annoys me. Thank you so much for liking this. Thank you so much, Little Miss Sharon, and everyone else for being here. It's just like the same narrative from Tony. Every time he's on the media, it's like, okay.
So they have not cleared. I didn't realize that. I just didn't realize that was the situation. So
not at all.
So my guess is if they haven't cleared him, that may explain some of the lack of communication that is going back and forth in this case.
Good possibility. But what more do you want from me? I was at work. I was video camera from 6 p.m. till after 7 a.m. the next morning.
I would almost wonder if law enforcement won't come out clearing Seth because they want Seth to be included in nobody's been cleared type of narrative, to make Katie and Chris feel safe. Like, say, for example, they were honing in on Katie and Chris. They don't want Katie and Chris to know that, so they're keeping the narrative as no one's been cleared, even Seth, to kind of downplay their avenue of the investigation. Again, that's just a possibility. I'm not saying that that's the case. But do you guys kind of see what I'm saying? Melly says, my question is, though, why hasn't he been cleared? I feel like maybe they're just kind of keeping them all on like the same page so that the people who they are kind of looking into feel safe. Like, well, no, because they're still looking into Seth. So, you know, he's not safe yet either. So they're not after us. I don't know if that makes sense, guys.
My son should be with me right now. He should be in this house, and I should not be looking for him. Tell me where I don't gain anything from this. This is not funny. You know, the fact is I'm looking for my son. He's not here. Y'all took my electronics. What more do you want? I mean, do they need my bank records? I mean, you can have them. I mean, I don't understand what I have to do to get cleared.
We're willing to do anything to get it cleared, Vinny.
Go ahead, Tony.
There are resources.
Yeah, we're willing to do anything to work with them to get him cleared, because it does allow us to bring in more resources once he's clear. And you know, if the video evidence, the phone data, and whatever else they may need isn't enough, then we'd simply like us to tell them, you know, why is it that he hasn't been cleared? He did a polygraph test with a well-known FBI polygrapher that Nancy Grace set up, and he passed that with flying colors. So, you know,
we're out of time, unfortunately. Tony, I'm sorry I have to cut you off there. We're out of time, but thank you both for joining us. We'll still look for those answers as the investigation continues. I'm Vinny Politan. Our investigation into the disappearance of 15-year-old Sebastian Rogers from his home in Tennessee continues. The circumstances surrounding this disappearance, though, really raised.
Right, Scott? Vinny is like, you're a suspect. Goodbye. I'm sorry, we're out of time. Thanks for joining us. No, but the rest of this, because I did skim a little bit with the mouse to see like who's on and all that. Oh, excuse me. The rest of this has like some commentary. I believe Chris McDonough from the Interview Room. He also is involved in the Cold Case Foundation, and a retired homicide detective makes an appearance. So we're going to hear from him. But just, I really like this little Vinny Politan Investigates show. It's different than Closing Arguments. People are saying Vinny cut it off specific reasons. The only reason is CourtTV is strict on their time segments. Right. Did you hear like the music that they chimed in? Like they have a specific schedule and, you know, guests that they got to have on. But people like to read into things. He was surprised. And that's the thing too, is like, was he, or was he just acting surprised, like on the air? I don't know. I think maybe they have their suspicions with Seth, in my opinion. I could see that. And the only thing that kind of makes me like suspicious is the fact that he has Tony like putting out this narrative of like, you know, we want to know, like, how much closer are you to finding Sebastian and, you know, figuring this stuff out? You can at least let us know that. Like, they're not going to let you know their inside scoops on the investigation, even if you're a parent. And, you know, inquiring so much about like, why hasn't Seth been cleared? Why hasn't Seth been cleared? It's like, relax. If you did nothing wrong, like, just sit back. You're not in handcuffs.
questions that need to be answered. Here's more of his story.
15-year-old Sebastian Rogers seemingly disappeared without a trace from his home in Hendersonville, Tennessee, where he was living with his mom and stepdad. His mom said he went to bed, and in the morning, he was nowhere to be found. Investigators reportedly have no suspects, no leads, and no evidence of what happened to Sebastian. How is that possible? Where is Sebastian?
This is a case that's been very short on evidence, but an audio recording has been circulating online that sounds like it could be a radio transmission from a canine handler during the search for Sebastian. Now, the speaker on this audio references several places near Sebastian's home, like the construction site, the cemetery, and the retention pond. The link to this audio file was uploaded to Twitter by SF Investigates, but it's unclear where the recording came from originally.
Nice big track back up, going into the construction site over here, back towards the beach. Go on behind you. It's awful muddy. Do you see any footprints, anything? You shouldn't have any shoes on. Hey, this is all dry, hard packed. Outside before. LT, we're now headed back south towards the cemetery on the far end of the construction site. Boy, I can see. I do have some footprints over here. Right there where you're standing? Yeah. Leading right over here to the retaining pond. No shoes, just footprints. The shoes that Max went straight into the pond. He literally dove into it.
So if you've got the canines taking the handler somewhere, what exactly does that mean? It brings me to our next question in this investigation, which is, did Sebastian walk away? Did he walk away? Just leave home for whatever reason? To try to answer this question, let's bring in our experts, relationship trauma expert, psychotherapist, and CEO of Life Counseling Solutions.
And you guys might know the answer to this question. So they're talking about how the dog followed a scent right to the pond. The dog literally jumped into the pond. We talked about earlier in chat, and you guys have seen on the news, a lot of autistic children are drawn to water. A lot of them, sadly, are found deceased in water. And I've seen other people who have autism kind of comment on it and say, can't really explain it. All I can say is it might have to do with our sensory issues. Has anyone ever asked, because I haven't heard it myself, but has anyone ever asked Katie or even Seth, is Sebastian, very drawn to water? Does he have like a sensory overload where he wants to feel like the water on him? Does anyone know that?
Lacey's with me. Also joining me, former homicide detective and host of The Interview Room with Chris McDonough. Chris McDonough is with us as well. Great to see you both. Chris, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts about this recording and the thoughts of the canines and their handlers following some scent somewhere?
Well, first of all, Vinny, the recording in of itself, and I was a dog handler from 1986 to 1989. And when a dog is on a track like that,
Cindy.
Is he picking up the scent of the boy headed towards that pond? Is that a possibility? Absolutely. It could be a possibility. So the investigation then would have to shift into, the water resources in relationship to that pond to make sure they've checked that box.
Let me ask you, Dr. Jenny Lacey, this is a 15-year-old child with autism. We're asking the question, did Sebastian walk away? How do you analyze that issue, knowing a little bit about Sebastian, not a whole lot, but we know he's a child with autism. He's able to do things. He goes to school. he's still a teenager, and he has those teenage issues as well. A little bit of friction at home with mom. What are your thoughts about the prospects and trying to figure out whether or not this child with autism at age 15 would simply walk away from home?
Well, my thoughts, Vinny, would be we would want to collect as much past history as possible. So what was his normal habits?
Okay, so since we're talking about normal habits, yeah, surely if they drove it to the pond, that would by his house. Now, keep in mind, if he did leave without his glasses, he could not see or swim. It's possible. So apparently they're saying that he did leave with his glasses, right, guys? So if he willingly went to swim in a pond or something, or, you guys are saying that he doesn't like lakes or ponds, just swimming pools. I guess he would take his glasses off and they would be able to at least find them. But yeah, they did drain the pond. Nothing was found. A good swimmer might overestimate how good they are. Swimming in a pool would be different than a lake or river, true. But you would think, yeah, now he apparently took his glasses. That was always all over the place too, wasn't it? Yes, Cricket, that's correct. It was a recent diagnosis. Mom says he took his glasses. The retaining pond was only knee-deep, drained, and walked twice. No evidence of Sebastian. Thank you. Yeah, they would have at least found his glasses by some form of body of water.
Circumstances where he would do things that would be out of his normal pattern. Who were the people who had the most access to him, and what would be some of their impressions, observations, if he tend to have normal habits, if he tend to have repetitive habits. So those would be some of the collection points that we would want to understand, the observations, what was his habits, what were the things that people reported that was any type of strange behavior, because we know that past behavior can predict future behavior. So we want to look at some of those kind of pieces to see if the possibility for him to just walk out of his home and to some of these areas would be likely based off of his past indications of behavior or past observations from those that had access to him.
All right, Chris, from your perspective, trying to put together pieces and trying to figure out, did he or did he not just simply walk away from his home? What are some of the things that you're looking for, and what are some of the things that have been revealed that would be significant in trying to answer that question?
Well, the first thing, Vinny, is whenever a child goes missing, you have about 3 hours from a law enforcement perspective to react. And that means, shut the scene down, shut the house down, because, statistically across this country, there's what they call the victim risk continuum. And the lower the risk, the higher the probability that there was, some type of cross germination to either a suspect and or, a risk activity that put the child in jeopardy. Let's use Elizabeth Smart for an example. She's sleeping in her room. All of a sudden, she disappears out of her house. But her sister remembered that it could have been the handyman. This was months later. So that showed that the investigation stayed at the home. In this particular case, you have mom who says, I saw him go to bed. I heard a thump. I went to bed. I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning. He's gone. Well, children just don't vanish. So what are the probabilities, based on what the doc just said, that that could be reality? So as an investigation, you want to start in the house. You want to start with everybody in the house, everybody related to the house, and then search the neighborhood. And you'll be surprised with today's technology how the circle gets smaller, smaller, and smaller. So those are a couple of things that I think this investigation started, and it looks like they did a pretty good job based on the filming that I've seen.
Now, Sebastian's dad joined the Pascal Show on YouTube and discussed what law enforcement's dog handlers told him about the search for Sebastian.
One dog followed a scent out into a construction site and then it disappeared. Could you maybe expand on that or explain a little bit more about that?
One of the dog handlers told me first day,
wow,
Monday, that the dog popped to a trail and they followed it and went all the way around and it ended in a construction site, but it ended. It's like there was nothing there.
Right. And that's a little odd.
Which
right?
Leads me to believe that, well, if it ends, normally the scent ends when you stop traveling on foot. From my understanding, that would mean that he got into a car.
Okay, let's follow up on that, Dr. Janie Lacey. If he ends up in a car, to me that means he would have been lured out of that house in the middle of the night.
Do people in chat think that he could have been lured out of the house in the middle of the night? Wouldn't that still have presented a scent of him walking to the road? And thank you so much, True Crime Paralegal, for the super stickers. I really appreciate that. And it's good to see you.
What are your thoughts about the prospects of that? Someone like Sebastian, right? He has some special needs. He's a child with autism, being lured by someone, perhaps someone from online, and bypassing, not telling his mother, not telling his father, and being able to walk out of that house. What do you think it would take to lure Sebastian out of that home?
Well, we would want to consider his normal patterns of behavior, including who he had normal conversations with. Was he playing online, on games and speaking with people he became familiar with? So we would want to look at the familiar patterns for him. And if potentially, as we know, a lot of teenagers do play games online and have online friends. So we would want to investigate and look at who was he regularly talking to or who he encountered, because based off of that information, if he potentially was lured and he got into a vehicle, we would probably want to make some assumptions that there probably was some familiarity, and unless there's some evidence of struggle, which it doesn't sound like there is. So I would be looking at his attachments or his familiar patterns when it comes to people he was commonly communicating with, playing games with, or just potentially who he would consider friends. And a lot of teens consider people they meet online as friends. So that would be a path that we would want to follow.
I want to take a listen to what his dad told me on a previous program about Sebastian just walking out of the house.
It doesn't seem like my son at all. He would never leave my house in the middle of the night barefoot. And if he did, he wouldn't. He wouldn't. We've left in the middle of the night. There's been times that we've gone fishing in the middle of the night. We plan that sort of stuff. But him walking out the door in the middle of the night, no. It's not something he would do. It's something he's never done on me.
Chris, for him to walk out in the middle of the night, I think it would take him to be lured by someone. And if that's the case, there would seemingly be some digital trail and perhaps a physical trail of that.
Yeah, absolutely, Vinny, and you're 1,000% correct. And that digital footprint by this point, we're almost 6 months into this, and let's also take into consideration we have a child on the spectrum scale. He's on medication. So, if he's lured out of that house, then the suspect is taking a risk. Number one, within a very short period of time, if the victim starts to have withdrawals or anything on that medication, that's a huge problem to manage. if you've just kidnapped this child. The second piece of this, to that digital footprint question, is if the authorities have looked at that digital footprint and said, okay, it just doesn't exist, then you have to go back to the house and you have to start looking at all of the, what we call the victimology of each and every individual that is in that home or had access to that home, and then start dissecting this case from there.
All right, our guests are staying with us. When we come back, have to ask another question, and this is a tough one. Will Sebastian ever be found?
There is no evidence to support foul play is involved in the disappearance of Sebastian.
But at this point, you don't rule it out?
We're not ruling anything out.
One of the most.
And I just like to point out, like, for people who are so pro, not that I'm saying you can't have your own opinion. All opinions are, welcomed and valid at this point, since there's been no arrests, no suspects, no persons of interest, no body found. But people like to just keep saying, like, no sign of foul play, so stop going after the parents. But you just heard what he said. It's not ruled out.
Just 48 hours on CourtTV. Coming up next on CourtTV. Join CourtTV's Vinny Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinny Politan Investigates. Weeknights, 9/8 Central. Only on CourtTV.
I'm not part of the investigation, and they don't have to let me know anything, which they don't let me know anything. I'm in law enforcement myself, so I've got to trust the procedure. I got to trust that if everything is followed by the procedure and everybody's doing what they're supposed to do, that there will be a positive outcome and my son will be found. I don't understand. They haven't come up with anything. Why they're not asking for higher powers to help.
A level of frustration. I think you heard it there from Sebastian's father, Seth Rogers.
Yeah.
Communication with law enforcement, but law enforcement in this case, where are they in the investigation? What evidence is there? I want to go back and take a listen to one of the original press conferences in this case right after Sebastian went missing. And at these press conferences, a lot of times you'll hear different things. Sometimes they'll show you a photo of a car that they're looking for or something else. Listen closely to what they did say.
There is no evidence to support foul play is involved in the disappearance of Sebastian.
But at this point, you don't rule it out?
We're not ruling anything out.
At this point, we don't have any evidence. There is not any kind of an indication that there is a criminal element involved. But we are keeping options open. We don't know what has happened. We don't know where Sebastian is right now. So we are pursuing any and all avenues.
So with that being said, I guess I kind of go back to these people who are on YouTube who go so hard and say, like, how dare this creator go after them and how dare they have these suspicions, blah, blah, blah. They've been cooperative. And it's like, we're just we all have our own opinion. In fact, having the opinion that we shouldn't be going after the parents is still, I respect your opinion for that. But I just don't understand why more people aren't kind of opening their eyes to these statements right here by law enforcement. Like, we don't have proof that there was a criminal element, but we're not ruling anything out. That just means whatever took place was cleaned up very, very well. And they don't have like a trail of blood or anything that came up with luminol or CCTV footage or anything like that that's like points to a crime taking place. But I think no matter what your opinion is, I think we all kind of say the same thing. Children just don't disappear into thin air. So something happened. Now, no foul play, fine. That could be your opinion. But I just don't get people who demonize channels for having the opinion that I think something bad did happen. Because law enforcement is also saying, like, you know, we're not ruling anything like that out either. Just my little soapbox rant.
No evidence of foul play. Like, you could end the sentence, I think, a little quicker. Like, no evidence is what they're saying. A 15-year-old boy disappears. No evidence. Brings me to my final question. This is a tough one. Will Sebastian ever be found? If you've got no evidence, how do you find him? Let me bring back in my guests. Still with us, Dr. Janie Lacey and Chris McDonough. Dr. Janie Lacey, I'm going to start with you first, which is the toll that this takes on a family, on a father, when you're not getting communication from the people who are in charge of finding your missing son, and you hear the words, no evidence. How much more difficult does that make all of this?
Well, there's no doubt that Dad has lots of frustration. There's probably a lot of unanswered questions, and just the unknown factor can continue to stress out someone's body, his body, where he's probably up at night, ruminating, constantly thinking back his last conversations and just replaying everything, the anxiety, right, the fear. But what I also heard in his interview with you is his hope, and him staying focused and him not giving up and him continuing to use his own resources and hiring a private investigator. Those types of things, as long as he's staying focused on his hope and knowing that his son is out there, that alone is going to keep his drive there. But we know that the support that he needs, the resources that he needs, and to continue to keep this story and his son front and center can provide some hope and some relief as far as that he's not alone in this journey to find his precious Sebastian.
Chris McDonough, you have so much experience in this area. Give us the honest answer right now on where you are based upon what we know and what we've heard in this case. Will Sebastian ever be found?
You know, Vinny, I have hope like you and everyone else that's a possibility. Statistically, 6 months into this, unless he did walk out that door on his own accord, that possibility, gets lower and lower. One of the things I would love to see the investigation do is take that shift in relationship to father, the biological father, Seth. If he's at work, they have him on video, if his truck's on video, et cetera, and they can verify and know that's a possibility, then tell the public. Okay? You have to tell the public what your steps are so that if you think of a gigantic puzzle of, let's say, the Statue of Liberty, and you're missing 5 or 6 pieces, the public will fill in that extra piece, okay? Because right now, the public doesn't know. When they hear we have no evidence, the public wants to help. And that's who the investigation needs to focus on. Because again, if we go to just the fact this child needs medication, well, who's managing that medication on board? There's one other huge piece of evidence potentially why they may be keeping him in the circle. In the back neighborhood behind the house, there is, my understanding, a video of potentially a vehicle back there. And there may be, some connection to the house, to that vehicle. I don't know whose vehicle that is, but maybe the authorities are thinking, hey, did the father hire somebody, et cetera, to get the kid out of here because it's a custody problem? That's pure speculation at this point on my behalf. However, that would keep him in the circle and keep that minimal flow of information away from him if that was a possibility.
Now, at one point in the search for Sebastian, a volunteer group recovered glasses many believed to be his. That wasn't until law enforcement released a statement refuting that hopeful notion. And let me read it for you. Important announcement. Attention, everyone. We want to clarify that the eyeglasses recently found are not related to Sebastian Rogers. The search operation plan for today has been in the works for several days. We appreciate your cooperation and understanding, because that was a big part of this case and a big part of when you see Sebastian, you see the glasses, and glasses were found. And it raised a lot of hopes at the time, but law enforcement did in fact go public with it. Dr. Janie Lacey, if Sebastian is out there somewhere, we only have about 30 seconds here, but what do you think is going through his mind if he's being held somewhere?
Especially if he's not having his resources as medication, there's probably confusion, right? There's probably a deterioration in his physical symptoms because of the stress level. So there's probably just a lot of confusion if he is out there and he's being held and not knowing what's going on and not familiar with his surroundings or the people who is there. He'd be scared, he'll be fearful. Yeah.
Well, Dr. Janie Lacey and Chris McDonough, I want to thank you both for joining the investigation tonight. Your insight is really important, and your time is valuable, so we appreciate it. Okay, folks, no leads, no evidence, no answers. That is just not acceptable. 15-year-old boys don't just disappear. They don't just vanish. Something happened. Either something happened to him in the house before he got to. Someone knows something. And his family, and of course, Sebastian, deserve an answer and deserve justice. I'm Vinny Politan. We'll keep looking for answers as the investigation continues.
And thank you so much, Vinny. All right, so let me just go through your comments in chat while we close things up. Okay, Johnny wants to know, and you guys comment down below if you think he should or not. Do any of you ladies know how long ricotta cheese stays good? It's unopened and from May 11th, 2024. It's good, right? Comment down below if you think Johnny should eat that. Yes, I agree, Lisa. I think we should all have an open mind with what happened to him and not just go after the parents or stepdad. I definitely agree there. I think that I still have my invisible investigative board in my mind open for other scenarios, but I just keep going back to, you know, the people who saw him last, the mother, the people whose stories have changed, etc. I think people that are demonizing people for whatever reason, people that just can't seem to open their mind to see other sides of things, is just kind of the same way Democrats and Republicans. I agree. And I also think there's an element of it of clicks and views, like, oh, let me get on live and just rip apart this one channel for their opinion, because if I cause drama, people will come to my channel and they want to sit in and listen to it. Because I mean, it's been shown drama and, you know, kind of inciting a conflict, like, oh, how dare this person have a live stream for 3 hours about Chris and Katie. They've been cooperative, like that channel gets good views. So rather than going on their channel and talking about another missing persons case that isn't getting attention, they get more clicks and views going on their channel and complaining about channels that cover Sebastian Rogers. Tony says, I still feel all three of them know where Sebastian is, in my opinion. So when we're keeping an open mind to things too, that is also another scenario I think that I have to keep open too. Is Tony, TikTok Tony, fishing for information because Seth is reporting it back to Chris and Katie? You know, like we just don't know. We don't know who's involved or what's going on. The people that say they obviously haven't done any research on the father, the stepfather, I know you corrected yourself, and family, the stepfather is a gross human being. His past definitely doesn't look good. One of them will slip up. Parents being cooperative doesn't mean they're innocent. Guilty people can still be cooperative. Yep. I would not go near Katie or Chris. A whole child is missing. That is scary to me. I really don't have an opinion. I'm just guessing at things that could have happened. Right. Yep. Seth, what is a correctional officer? He's not law enforcement. Right. Kind of hard to rule out the 3 parents after what they have taken place since the first search. Yeah. I don't think that Vinny cut off Seth because Seth said that he was still a suspect. It's just part of television. They had to get those 2 expert opinions on for the second half of the show. Media has no problem interviewing people who are tied to cases, suspects. They've even interviewed people who ended up being arrested. So I don't think that Seth got cut off because he said that he was a suspect. Johnny says, I don't like Vinny. He's better looking than me. Yes, give this a thumbs up. Yeah. What about the Lori Vallow effect? Day before missing, shows her children on an awesome day, then boom. And that's something that Katie has kind of said over and over. Like, yes, he really did have a good day. Yes, he really did have a wonderful day that day. It's like, was that done on purpose? We can't help but wonder. But okay, guys, I appreciate you guys joining me tonight. Thank you to everyone who hit the thumbs up button. It really does put the story out there. So it spreads the word on Sebastian, gets his name and face out there. It does help the channel too. I can't hide that fact, but I appreciate it. And anyone who sent super stickers, Cash App, all that, thank you guys. Yeah, we had the best day. I know, sad all around. Hopefully something breaks through. For real. I mean, we haven't even touched on this case in 3 weeks. And every time I pick it up to talk about it with you guys, I'm like, man, I wish that I was reporting something more of a development, but we're just here with an interview from Seth, which, you know, I appreciate. And he's doing what he's got to do to get his kid's name and face out there. Whether he's involved or not, like, you know, nobody has been cleared. We'll take it. Letitia had a good comment earlier too. Let me see if I can find it before we close out. There's this one, which was sort of what I was saying earlier in chat too. I think that that's a possibility. When creators request further information, and I've seen this shared in Facebook groups for Sebastian Rogers, they've screenshotted the reply from TBI. When creators request further information from Sumner County and TBI, they receive a form letter reply that says Sebastian is an active criminal case. No further information is available to the public. And now that screenshot from someone getting that email kind of put people in an uproar, like, so it is a criminal investigation. I mean, that's what law enforcement is sending out. Whether he was taken before coming home or from it, I feel he would have left with someone he knew, in my opinion. I agree, if that's the case. Okay, thank you, sweet Melissa, and have fun cooking and enjoy your dinner. And thank you all. Thank you, Kent, and everyone else in chat. I appreciate you guys. We will talk soon on Monday. We've talked about how we're going to dig into the Sarah Boone case. So we'll do like a pre-trial case review, go over body camera footage and police interviews, and then soon her trial will be starting, and we'll be all kind of prepped and refreshed on things that took place prior. So I think maybe we'll do that Monday, unless there's any breaking news that takes place over the weekend. It would be nice if there was an update in this case. So we'll just sit back and see. But yes, I hope you guys have a great weekend. Be sure to relax and enjoy your family. We'll decompress from these heavy topics, and then we'll jump back into it next week. And again, thank you everyone in chat for all your insights and your opinions. Whether we agree or not, I really respect all you guys, and I appreciate you guys participating. So I will talk to you guys very soon. So goodbye.